You took the vacation. You slept in on Saturday. You did the long weekend, the digital detox, the extra hour in bed. And on Monday morning you felt exactly the same. The same heaviness in the chest, the same static behind the eyes, the same reluctance you cannot quite explain. Here is what nobody has told you. Rest is not the cure for burnout. It just isn't. And in the next few minutes, I am going to walk you through what actually is, and why the thing everyone told you would fix this has not worked. Let's start with what your body is doing right now. Here is the story you have probably been telling yourself. You are tired because you have been working too hard. Rest is the answer to being tired. Therefore, more rest should fix it. And that logic almost works, because for normal fatigue, it does. If you stayed up too late one night, one good sleep gets you back. If you worked a hard week, one weekend usually resets you. This is why the rest story is so sticky. It has worked for you your whole life. So when you carve out the vacation, or the long weekend, or the whole Sunday with your phone in another room, and you wake up on Monday, and nothing has moved, it feels like you are broken, like something is wrong with your ability to rest. But you are not broken. Your rest is working. The problem is what you are trying to fix with it, because burnout is not tiredness. Burnout is a nervous system state, and that is a very different thing. Think of it this way. Imagine the electrical system in a house. Every outlet, every light, every appliance draws current. If too much current flows through the system for too long, a small piece of hardware, the circuit breaker, trips. It cuts the power on purpose. It is protection. And once that breaker has tripped, it does not matter how many times you flip the light switch. The light will not come on. The switch is downstream of the trip. You have to actually go to the breaker box and reset the breaker itself before anything else works. Your nervous system has something like that. When your stress response, the sympathetic branch, the HPA axis, the whole cortisol pathway has been running at demand for too long, the entire system starts to downregulate. It trips a breaker. And burnout is what it feels like to live inside that tripped state. Rest, in this analogy, is flipping the light switch. You are doing the right action for a normal problem, but the problem is not the switch. The problem is the breaker. And no amount of switch flipping resets a breaker. So what does this actually look like in the body? Let me walk you through what the research shows. Under acute stress, a real threat, a big deadline, a hard conversation, your body does something elegant. Cortisol rises, heart rate climbs, attention narrows. You handle the thing, then the system falls back down. This is the pedal to the metal then lift design your body was built for. Under chronic stress, weeks and months of demand with no real recovery, that same system stays switched on. Cortisol runs elevated. Sleep gets choppy. The body becomes what researchers call allostatically loaded, carrying an accumulated bill from the stress response. But burnout is not that stage. Burnout is what comes after that stage. A large body of research, including landmark work by Melamed, Shiram, Malmersteig, and others, has found something counterintuitive. In people meeting criteria for burnout, the cortisol pattern often reverses. The morning cortisol response gets blunted. The daily curve flattens out. The system is not running hot anymore. It is running quiet. Too quiet. It has stopped responding normally to demand at all. That is the tripped breaker state. Your body has pulled back from the machinery of activation, because activation has been the problem. And this is why rest on its own does not move it. Rest reduces the input, but the output side, your body's ability to mobilize, to engage, to feel anything is motivating, that is what has gone offline. You cannot fix an output problem by lowering the input. There is a well-known line of research on vacations, led by a psychologist named Jessica de Bloom. She and her collaborators have followed workers through their holidays and back into their normal weeks. What they find over and over is what they call a fade-out effect. People do feel better on vacation, genuinely better, but within 1 to 4 weeks of returning to normal life, The fatigue and the health complaints returned to almost exactly where they were before the trip. The vacation moved something, but it did not move the underlying state. Another researcher, Sabine Sonnentag, has spent decades studying what actually predicts recovery from work stress. Her finding, replicated many times, is that the sheer amount of physical rest is a poor predictor. What matters far more is something she calls psychological detachment, the mental disengagement from work while you are away from it. 2 hours of true detachment do more than a full weekend of half checking your email. And this is where the breaker actually starts to reset. Now, here's the part that most of us have not been told. Modern working life is almost perfectly engineered to prevent detachment. Your phone is your work device. Your Slack is on the same screen as your friends. The laptop is on the kitchen table. The evening ends with one more email. The weekend has half a check-in. You are never fully off, and so your nervous system never gets the signal that the demand has actually ended. It stays braced, and braced for long enough is what trips the breaker. This is not a personal failure. This is a design problem. The nervous system you have was calibrated for a life with clear beginnings and endings, for hunts and rests, for seasons, for the sun setting and the phone not existing. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do in a context it was never designed for. The exhaustion is not your fault. So, the practical part. This is education, not medical advice. If what you are dealing with feels bigger than a rough season, or has been going on for a while, and nothing you try is shifting it, please talk to a doctor or a therapist. What follows are 3 things the research suggests can start to reset the breaker. The first is slow exhale breathing. Not deep breathing in, that actually activates the sympathetic branch. What you want is a longer exhale than inhale. Something like a 4 count in and a 6 or 8 count out for a couple of minutes. The reason this works is that your vagus nerve, the long wandering nerve that runs from your brainstem down through your body, is engaged by the exhale. Slowing the exhale is one of the few voluntary levers you have on the parasympathetic system. It is a small direct signal to the breaker box. The second is movement, especially outside. Not a workout, a walk. 20 or 30 minutes, ideally within the first hour or 2 after waking. There are 2 reasons. Walking helps complete what stress researchers call the stress response cycle. It discharges the mobilization energy the body has been holding on to, and morning light through your eyes helps regulate the cortisol curve so that it rises when it is supposed to rise and falls when it is supposed to fall. The third is psychological detachment, the one from Sonnentag's research. This is not rest. This is one activity on a regular basis that fully occupies your attention and has no connection to your work. Cooking something new, a book that pulls you in, time with a person you can be a whole person around. What matters is that the work part of your mind goes fully offline for a real, protected block of time. A little of this beats a lot of half-checking. Here is what I want you to leave with. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You did not fail at resting. Your body did exactly what it was designed to do. It tripped a breaker to protect itself from a level of demand it was not built to sustain indefinitely. What you need is not more time on the couch. What you need is small, repeated signals to your nervous system that the demand is actually, finally ending. Rest is part of that picture, but it is not the whole picture. It is not even the most important part. If any of this landed for you, if you have felt that Monday morning heaviness after a weekend that was supposed to fix it, tell me in the comments which piece of this you noticed most. A like on this video helps YouTube show it to someone else who has been searching for a real explanation for what is happening in their body. Next video, I am going to walk through what actually happens in the body during a panic attack and why some of the standard advice makes it worse. Subscribe so it lands in your feed. Thanks for watching.